Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for Community Focus. We have a unique guest today. Sean Sellers of Montgomery professionally is an insurance adjuster. However, years ago, he founded an organization called Southern Paranormal Researchers. Sean, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Since childhood, you've been interested in the paranormal. Why?
Well, you know, I always often feel like this field kind of chose me. I didn't choose it. And a lot of it has to do with a lot of my experiences I had as a child. And I was really kind of blessed growing up having my grandmother to help me to understand a lot of the things I would pick up on, a lot of my experiences. And a lot of my childhood friends that I grew up with actually took part in it, and we kind of shared it together growing up. And a lot of the guys are still a part of our team today, and it kind of led me to do this. And you know, I never really wanted to do this, and a few years ago I actually lost my grandmother. I lost one of our friends in an automobile accident. We said, you know, we really need to get involved and start doing something and give back, you know. And we started saying, let's do what we did as a kid. Let's start trying to make a difference and help out with historical societies and help out as much as possible. So we founded Southern Paranormal Researchers, and it's pretty much, I wanted to found a team full of professionals, and we have people from all walks of life, from a Methodist pastor, nursing home administrator, you name it. We're all on board, and we're all trying to learn and explore. And one of the great things about doing this is the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, and that's what it's all about.
Sean, you and your team have investigated sites throughout our coverage area. And I want to take one as an example, Clanton, Alabama. What did you do there, and what did you find?
Wow, we actually investigated a restaurant called Helen's Place, and it was a place that was called in, and they've had numerous reports of activity, from seeing two little girls, from seeing a guy standing outside. And we did a walkthrough, and we met with the owner of the restaurant, and we said, you know, we took the case, and we'd love to have an opportunity to come back and to investigate it. We have different forms of investigation where normally it really depends. I do a lot of moving investigations. Sometimes we just use regular handheld cameras and go through, or we'll pretty much do a full investigation, run DVRs and cameras throughout, kind of like we see on Ghost Hunters. And what we did is we just took the case, and we come in, and there's a lot of things you have to look into before you ever start the investigation, the EMF, and even just a lot of the wiring, a lot of things that kind of carbon monoxide that kind of can play into the investigation and what causing the experiences.
So you try to reconcile some of these other influences, in other words, identify these influences.
Absolutely. You know, I'm one of the ones, I'm a firm believer there's no such thing as coincidence, but at the same time, you owe it to our clients and to this field of research to try to find a rational explanation. And you got to come in and you got to check every aspect. You know, faulty wiring in the wall can cause fear cages, cause headaches, catching shadows in the corner of your eyes. The same thing with a lot of the carbon monoxide. And you got to try to find the explanation and see what it could actually be. And then once you rule out all of that, then you kind of begin your investigation, and you've got to find out when the activity occurs, a lot of the phenomena, what they're reporting, because there's a lot of different hauntings, from an earthbound spirit to residual. It could be a lot of different things, and you really got to take that into account with your investigation.
What did you find in the restaurant in Clanton?
Well, you know, it's one of those cases that a lot of times you come in, and to be honest, we do investigations pretty much weekly, and sometimes you just don't find the evidence that you want. But at the same time, our team, I take into account of personal experiences and a lot of what we find. And we did get some evidence. We actually did catch we say a C-grade EVP, and that's the electronic voice phenomena. And we had a lot of personal experiences. And one of the things I share with everybody when we travel and talk is the best tool anybody can have in this field is the tool God gives them, and use that tool within here. And that's one of the tools I try to use, and I tell our team to use, and kind of open up to the environment, to what's going on. And we did have some personal experiences and picked up on several interesting things. And one of the things that kind of happened was pretty interesting. There's been some reports in the female bathroom of paranormal activity. And our team was investigating, and they was feeling a little uncomfortable, and we went to the bathroom, and there's an old chair in there. And I actually sat in the chair, and come to find out it kind of related to some connections to the owner and his grandfather, and we felt that had a lot to do with it, and we kind of advised them they probably want the chair moved out of here, because it really meant a lot to the grandfather.
But that mirror?
Nice. Look at the hooks. How about that?
Yeah, that's really cool.
The hooks are like,
Wow.
that's different. Yeah.
We have Ron, Michelle, and Brooksy, and me, Shelley, in the women's bathroom. We're kind of crowding it out right now. There's a coat rack / hall settee thing What's flashing? Anybody just see something flashing? Okay. Anyway, it has a weird effect to it. So, anyway, we're just going to do a basic investigation, not necessarily an EVP session, but if you'd like to speak into the recorder, we'll be more than happy to take your conversation. Average temperature in this bathroom is around 79 degrees, and I suspect that the more we breathe in here, it's going to get a little warmer.
I would like for someone or anyone that is happens to be connected to this piece of furniture, if you would show yourself in the mirror, I'd appreciate it. Or light up the meter, the green light. See there? If you'd light that up, let us know you're here. Why do I get this? This was like a Mason's.
That's exactly what I
Masons.
got.
Yep.
And that
Like
we
a
should.
Mason's, you know, their
Yep.
little thingy.
Do you think there was Masonic meetings in this house?
No, I don't
No,
think this.
wherever that
it's-
furniture
That
was.
piece of furniture
Yeah,
was
It
in a
was in a
Masonic
temple, you
hall.
must miss. Come on, knock on something for me, please. I think this is a Mason. Connected with this furniture. You want to sit here and see, because I don't think he wants to talk to me.
let me sit down.
So would you like to look at it first?
Yeah, let me look at
Okay.
It's
I
pretty
just think it
interesting.
is.
Look
I
at
just
the,
have a feeling it's a Mason. It was in the Mason law, Mason,
I get the same, at the same
I don't know
time.
why, I just did.
Yeah, we asked about moving, and he said men's hall.
Yeah, he does not want this in the ladies' room.
I don't know if this is. It's a it's almost it's a clan chair.
A
What
clan
they you know, a lot of the Masonic ritual, a lot of Masonic setup is from some of the clan stuff,
No wonder they won't talk.
and I think this has to do with that. There's some type of it's not a good gentleman's club. I'd almost say the judge.
Now I'm getting you don't understand.
It's very occultish.
Yeah, it's negative,
Yeah.
negative. I thought Masons, but it's negative. Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you want me to ask Judd? He's right.
Yeah, that's what
If you know.
Hey, Judd, what do you know about the hall chair here? The hall tree chair?
That's been in my family about 100 years.
Really? Okay.
It's not part of the house. We brought that up.
Yeah.
Why is that a problem?
No.
No, we're just.
Or hate to ask, was he ever like in a clan?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I was asked to come in and sit in the chair, and when I sat down in the chair, it's pretty much like it popped. You know exactly who it was, and it pretty much he communicated. You know, a lot of times you hear people come in and they kind of force the energy, and you know, I don't ever really force anything, because if you kind of grab it and pull something in, you might grab something you don't want. So I kind of let it flow. As soon as I sat down, it was like bam, he wanted to talk, and we found out that the grandfather was a member of a fraternity, certain fraternity. He had some ties to several other organizations that maybe not have been well thought of, and he really didn't see. He kind of just felt everything about the gentleman, who he was, and his point, and his presence was known a lot more than it was let on before we ever come in. And that happens, to be honest, about 90% of the time when we come in and do the cases and talk. After we get going and if they come along with us, we uncover a lot of the real truth to the case. The grandfather actually got his point across and said what he wanted to say, and that was pretty much it. And he was pretty much a firm fellow anyway. And that's something I think we communicated with him, with Judd then, is that gentleman was a firm guy, and it was pretty much his way on a lot of things, and that's the way it was. And one of the things too, when I do what I do, if you don't cut it off, you bring them home with you. Bring that residual home with you, and that's why it's so important to try to cut it off and let these things go. And as you talk about it, it kind of comes back alive in your energy as you talk. So I'm starting to relive the whole aspect. And I remember sitting in the chair, and it was a big wooden chair. You know, it was almost like it was stained. You know, it was carved out. It was pretty much anybody that's seen a worshipful master's chair in a Masonic lodge, that's pretty much exactly what it was. But some of the carvings on it was a little bit different. And when you sit in it, you had that same empowerment of energy, and that's pretty much how that gentleman saw himself, the grandfather, even now in this world. And a lot of things people don't realize is that in this world, when you cross over, you carry the same mind frame in who you are. You're that same person if you stay on that plane, and you carry it with you on and on. And he's one of the guys that pretty much wanted to constantly show off who he was, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was the one that was actually putting the things in the middle of the floor trying to get their attention.
We've had Helen's Place since March of '07, and just we've seen a lot of stuff, hear a lot of stuff. I personally have seen a child, a female child, a teenage girl, an older man. We've had employees that have seen the girls, a lot of guests that come in and see the different things going on. We've had stuff moved around till my wife got on to them, and they quit moving that, but just odd things going on. One night, my niece was here with us, and we were in the banquet room watching TV, and in our buffet room, a tumbler fell off the rack or whatever, bounced on the floor, so we went running in there. No reason for the tumbler to fall off the shelf, and my wife picks it up, you know, so we go back in there, we're watching TV, and then we hear a whole stack of them fall, which really no reason for a stack of glasses to fall off the shelf. We went in there, nothing. There was not any glasses on the floor, but you could hear them bouncing and everything. I mean, you could tell that a stack had fallen, but when we got in there was nothing. It was just like it was before. We had whatnots on the shelf my wife would decorate with or whatever, and she'd put them a certain way, come in the next morning, they'd be moved.
Tammy will actually take like one of them, lay it down, just kind of, it's not as a trick for her, it's just a decorator sense that she likes, and she has come back in here and they'll be standing back up.
A man committed suicide across the street with a shotgun.
He was locked in a garage, and the police couldn't get him out. And this would have been in the early 50s, so they called the city to come down there with some bolt cutters. So my dad was trying to cut the lock. Him and my grandfather was trying to cut the lock and get in. They couldn't. The guy stuck a shotgun under his neck and killed himself. And I've heard my dad through the years tell me that late at night there's been strange things going on around downtown. And in my profession, I've been out late at night a lot, and I've seen some weird things go on in this downtown area. The guy that I've seen, the same one that he's seen, that guy was killed in a car wreck, supposedly, at the end of the street. It was always questionable what made him hit the tree. So, because I do know from talking to other people that would have knowledge of it, there was damage to the rear of his vehicle, stuff like that. Consistent with being pushed. Stuff like that. And that's not the first time I've seen somebody dressed like that strolling up and down 2nd Avenue South.
When it comes down to the gentleman outside, you know, I'm a firm believer that it comes to the two different guys in the front and backyard. The guy in the front yard, the gentleman that's reported that got killed in an automobile accident up the road. The guy in the backyard is connected to the guy that actually committed suicide out back in the shed that was formerly there. The little girls and stuff, they really can't get a point of where they come in or where they belong, but there's a lot of different stories and different theories out there. But I think it's a little bit of everything, and in some of the presences inside, you know, one of my belief systems, some of the things I felt, it actually is connected to some of his generational folks with some of the heirlooms they had inside the house and where they had things sitting.
What are the tools of the trade?
Wow, you know, when I first got started in this is what we used to use, and a lot of people laugh at it. All we had was a Boy Scout compass. We had a Polaroid camera, a notebook pad, and we used to make dowsing rods out of clothes hangers. And, you know, and that's pretty much what we had when we got started. And now when we've come up, we use DVRs, cameras, we use EMF detectors.
Now, what? Explain that.
It picks up pretty much the electromagnetic field, and pretty much that's from the wiring in the walls, and pretty much you get a feel of the environment. And the theories out there is that, you know, earthbound spirits and ghosts can fluctuate the activity. You know, that's one of the theories I kind of support, and that's what I've witnessed it before where it's kind of grown. And also we have different thermometers and temperature gauges, because another theory out there is that spirits actually can lower, and we've had occurrences where it actually raised the temperature, and that's part of the investigation. We still use a lot of notebook pads, a lot of basically just absolutely documenting. We use voice recorders, digital voice recorders, and try to capture EVPs, and that's one of my favorite type of evidence.
You mentioned that term a minute ago, electronic voice
Phenomena. Yes, ma'am.
What would you expect to hear as a result of that?
Well, a lot of times we try to, what happens is we ask questions. Is anybody here like to communicate with us? Who is it? And you try to get a response back, an answer, or maybe who it is, and they reply to a lot of your questions. And to me, that's something that really validates a lot of the activity that we get. So so that's one of the things we look for. We have different grades too. You run them through programs, and you try to grade them from A, B, or C. And anything below C, we normally just disregard it. And one of the important things is actually documenting every aspect of the investigation, where everybody's at, what's going on, so you can rule out anything, and that's really important part of the investigation.
So this electronic voice transmission, what have you heard it say?
Wow, we've captured tons of different ones, and some of the ones captured, one of my favorite ones was in New Orleans. We captured a little girl, and we actually investigated the old 1891 house, and that's over in the Garden District. And it's really cool to me a lot of the reports and stories, and you actually capture evidence kind of supports the story. And one of the stories is the little girl that drowned in a well, and she was seen in several of the homes. And that's a lot of the things that people don't realize, is that a lot of times a ghost can be seen, and they're not always enclosed in one environment. They can move around. The little girl's been seen in several homes. And we actually captured the EVP upstairs. We actually got some video of a door closing right before we captured the EVP, and that's some of the things we look for.
What did she say?
If she was just singing. She was absolutely singing a song. And normally when you catch something like singing, I would a lot of times kind of mark it up as residual. But with the door closing, it kind of changes the environment a little bit of being an earthbound spirit.
You use the term residual energy. What does that mean?
Well, it's an imprint of history. A lot of times in battlefields and any type of emotion, a death, a birth, it's just imprints history, and it's pretty much a photo of energy. And a lot of times when you have reports, you might have moon phases, thunderstorms, a lot of things kind of can charge it, and they'll kind of fire it off. A lot of times you hear reports of stories. I saw someone walk down a hallway and walk through a wall, and when you pull the paperwork and look at the way the home was drew up, there was probably once with a door there. And that's a lot of the residual things where the entity does the same thing over and over, just keep replaying in history.
Speaking of residual energy, I interviewed the ranger at Horseshoe Bend one year and asked him about the ghosts of the battlefield. And he said, indeed, he could feel that presence, that heaviness. Have you ever experienced that on a battlefield?
Yeah, a lot of some of the investigation techniques in the battlefield and some of the things we've done before is played recordings of old drum marches. Also, you can line your investigators up and do different marching formations and try a lot of things like that to fire off the residual and a lot of the replay. And you're talking about feeling that heaviness, or feeling, one of the things that I've always been taught, and a lot of times when you're doing an investigation or you're in a creepy place and you feel the tingling on the back of your neck and you feel it, you start singing a song, start whistling, and you break the vibration. That's where whistling in the graveyard comes from. You break the vibrations of the entity and that feeling.
The entities that you've experienced, do you experience positive energy or negative energy, or both?
We actually do both. Our team, we do a lot of historical sites and do a lot of things like that. We also do a lot of private homes. So we pretty much deal with a little bit of everything in this field.
Let's go over some of the places in our coverage area that you've been.
Okay.
Fort Morgan, what did you find there?
Well, we've actually had a chance to investigate Fort Morgan twice. The first time we investigated it, I really love history, and I was really disappointed because we didn't have anything. But we knew there was something there. But we had a good time. Some of our guys had some personal experiences. But that's all we had, and we had an opportunity to go back actually about a month ago. And we did an investigation, and it was a little bit different. We had some personal experiences, and we actually captured, to me, one of my favorite video evidence that we've captured. And it actually looks like somebody's walking past our camera, and it's almost like a mist that walks past.
Anybody out here? Hello?
So you've captured a mist. I've also heard about the flashes of light. Do you capture that very often?
You know, in regards to the flash of the light, a lot of times you can find rational explanations of a lot of the stuff. In regards to orbs too as well. You know, you hear a lot of paranormal teams talk about the orbs and the balls of light. And a lot of times it could be dust particles, it could be insects, it could be a lot of things. And a lot of things you want to look for. If you actually do see an orb, a lot of times you can trace it with a camera or a video camera. And a lot of times it could manifest into something. But you know, one of the things I tell everybody is, when you're working a private case and somebody captures something on a photo, you can give them a rational explanation, but you say, you know what, if you believe this is something else, you know, I'm not going to tell you differently. I can give you my opinion, but you believe what you believe.
What is the proportion of encounters or investigations that do turn out to have something to them? And what's the other percentage that is just a rational explanation?
Wow, you know, a lot of times, anytime there's some truth in a little bit of everything. When it comes to a lot of the private home cases and stuff, normally it's some truth to it somewhere. You know, whether it's some type of oppression, some type of negative energy. You know, it always comes back to energy. You know, sometimes you have a couple, somebody arguing, fuss and fight, and you come into that room and you feel that heaviness. You know, in my theories and some of my belief system, earthbound spirits goes where the vibrations are. And a lot of times when you have anybody that's dealing with any type of oppression, alcoholism, any type of problems, they feed off that vibration. And another one of my theories out there that I'm a firm believer in, you know, earthbound spirits can be found anywhere. Hospitals, doctors' offices, airports, anywhere you got the fear vibration. Bars where you got the drinking and stuff. They go off that and they feed off that because they need that life force on the vibrations, and that's what's happening. And there's a lot of theories out there why paranormal activity is growing and why you want more and more earthbound spirits.
What do you normally find in churches?
Well, you know, we actually investigated a church one time, and it was a cool case. The church was built in the 1830s, and they actually have the slave galleries, everything come up, and they actually kept it as authentic as possible. But the back part of the church was added on in the 20s. And the pastor and his secretary kept hearing doors open and close. Somebody walked by. The audio stuff upstairs in the balcony kept getting unplugged, and we went and investigated it. And it was actually, we did have caught some pretty interesting evidence, and actually did come in contact with a male presence there. And after we said, you know, there's got to be something more to it, and come to find out there was some internal problems with the church, and the guy they found out what it was actually an old deacon there that actually took part of getting that back edge of the church built on.
Part of the history.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you normally investigate at night or in the daytime?
You know, a lot of times we do the investigations at night, but it really doesn't matter. A lot of times it depends on when the activity's seen. A lot of the people are having experiences during the daytime. That's when we try to go in to do the investigation. And to thoroughly investigate somewhere, you know, you watch Ghost Hunters, a lot of the TV shows, and they come in that night. But to truly research a place, you've got to try to come more than one time and try it in the daytime, try it at night, try it during thunderstorms, try it during full moons, and try it every aspect that you can to really see when you can have different activities and what type of evidence you can capture.
I'm going to call out a list of some of the places you've been in our coverage area with Southern paranormal researchers and find out which you think has the most presence of spirits or whatever you call them. Enterprise, New Brockton, Tallahassee, Selma and Old Cahaba, Clanton we talked about, Prattville, Millbrook, Wetumpka, Eufaula, Montgomery.
Wow, you know, me being from Montgomery, I think Montgomery tops right up there, but to me, Selma's one everybody talks about, and we've really been blessed and have an opportunity to investigate a lot of places in Selma, from the St. James Hotel, Smitherman Museum, the old train depot, and old church out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. We've investigated tons of places, several private homes, and Selma's one of those cities and stuff where history kind of lives within, and a lot of people kind of hold that energy there, and Selma's one of the most active places around here next to Montgomery.
If a skeptical person asks you, how would you prove that this is paranormal, what would you say to them?
Well, you know, I don't think I really owe it to them to prove it. I think there's too many people out there having experiences, and I think if someone don't believe in it and don't have any experiences, to keep it that way. You know, that's the best thing out there. I think more and more people are starting to have their experiences starting to grow, and the only thing we can do is tell you what we can find and what we think in some of our belief systems. And one of the things about this field is that we're all learning. There's no such thing as an expert, and we're all in this to learn, and the more we learn, the more we don't know. And it's a growth process, and that's something that's what's great about this field. And to me, too, another thing is the people you meet and the stories you hear and the experiences they've had. That kind of adds to this wonderful thing that we're doing.
Again, Southern history.
Yes, ma'am.
Last question. When you do an investigation, most often do you find negative energy or positive energy?
You know, it just depends. You know, one of the big things that we do in a lot of the traveling is some of the private homes. And, you know, a lot of the reports of the dark cases are starting to grow. And some of the cases are absolutely just kind of out there. A lot of those reports are starting to come more and more every day. And I'm definitely seeing a rise in a lot of the negative stuff.
Does it scare you?
Absolutely. I think just anybody in this field, you know, you have a belief system, and once you get started doing this and you really start having new experiences, your worldview and your spiritual view changes. And that's one of the things about this field is everything about your beliefs. Is no matter where you start in this field, once you begin, your belief system is going to be changed because of some of the things you experience, what's really out there. As I'm started to do what I do in a lot of the work that I do energy-wise and receiving, it's been a process that I had when I was a kid and a teenager, and I kind of got away from it, but it never really went away. And it was a slow process building back up. And while you build it back up, it's just as important to learn to protect yourself. And we was in the old Jasper Center in Northport, Alabama. And we was doing an investigation. It's one of those places when you start walking down that road, you can feel the energy. And we started the investigation, and one of the things that I can't always feel and pick up on, it kind of freaks me out today, is the shadow figures. And there's different forms of shadows. I'm talking about the hardcore dark shadow men that's been reported so much. And the old Jasper Center is famous for them. We was in the third floor in the back part, and we start to move, and actually I saw the shadow move. And the first thing I assumed it was somebody upstairs with us, that, you know, it's out in the middle of the place, somebody snuck in. And as we moved forward, I had James Kirkley was behind me with a camera. It wasn't anything there, and before I knew it, the shadow figure moved forward and it thumped me it knocked me down. It hit me on the head and knocked me backwards. It knocked me into James, and James pretty much caught me, and James fell back into David. And once I collected myself, I didn't have any barriers. I couldn't control my energy, and I was absolutely shot. And one of the things was, as I received, I couldn't have no process. I was kind of being overwhelmed with a lot of the energy and a lot of things that was there. No.
Is there a breeze over here at all?
These right here, what?
They're gonna take stop.
Whoa!
What?
Y'all are not outside?
Somebody's up here.
Hey. Somebody's up here with us.
That's a hard.
I hear a bell ring.
Oh,
Take them stairs.
hey, we need to stop. Let me call. Let's split it.
Show me, come down this way.
Somebody took a blow at me.
They're right here. This goes to the outside.
This is what he did.
What?
Did somebody else see that light flashing outside?
Yeah, and it was coming. Y'all need to get out of the building.
There he is.
Yeah,
Get out of the
building now. Get everybody out of the building.
Cut those two and keep.
Doesn't matter, I got no light.
You got a light. Cut y'all's off, then I guess. There he is. That's a person.
Somebody.
Radio. That's right. No,
we're not.
Surrounded.
We're surrounded up here on the second floor. Get all them girls out of the front.
Get a visual, and from
Who
that point
are
on,
you? It's in the game. Move.
Who are you?
he turned in and hit me.
Yeah, he went like this.
Yeah.
And then he stopped, and then all of a sudden we saw the lights. So he went like this, and he took off running that way. Now I saw
I saw lights
I
going
thought-
like this.
It's a black male, about this tall. Looked just like James. So he's
Whoa. Did anybody else see that light just go right across there?
Radio. See if they're flashing lights in.
No, they wouldn't have got
Hey,
that.
Greg, y'all ain't flashing any lights.
Because this is a hallway in. They're not going to...
And to me, that was one of the first times that kind of made me stand up and really take a more serious approach to what we're doing. I always take it when we do the darker cases in the private homes, but when we do those type of investigations, it's pretty much let me to always have my guard up and really start honing my skills of the work I do with some of the energy stuff. And that's the one case that kind of stands out to me because you can feel history as you walk down the road, and once you get inside of it, it's an unbelievable place. It comes alive.
Do you have a website for people to find out more information?
We do. You can check out southernparanormalresearchers.org or SeanSellers.com.
All right. Thanks for being our
Thank you
guest
very
today.
much.
Sean Sellers, by profession, is an insurance adjuster, and he is founder of Southern Paranormal Researchers.